Hello. It has somehow worked. So if this is like the one time it happens, then that's fine with me. But anyway, I'm not sure if you could hear me very well last time, but last weekend was free RPG day, so I went to my local game store, 20-sided store, and did some mini painting classes with some brand new painters, about a dozen of them, most of them pretty much brand new. And it was a great time. It was a very hot day, but thankfully they had air conditioning. And 12 people left really excited to paint minis, so that was awesome. This is a blessing in disguise because I just primed these, so hopefully they'll dry fairly soon. Yeah, I'm Brooklyn. Do you know it? Um, yeah, we a bunch of us at Dwarven Forge know those folks that own it and everything, and now it's almost in the same place, but right down the street. They got a new space that's a little better for them. So that's the first time I got to see it. Uh, Especially the basement area where some of the classes take place. So that was cool. I'm in New York frequently. Awesome. Yeah, it's a great folks, great store. Lauren is awesome. Um, yeah, I have a friend who writes some awesome world building zine games that he's run there. Yeah, good folks. Complete Strategist. I haven't been there since before COVID, but man, what what an attraction. The way that they have everything like stacked, packed to the gills. You can hardly walk through there, but that's almost part of the fun. You know what I mean? It's just like walls of gaming stuff. Um, yeah, that store is pretty cool. Basically, the only place to find legacy RPG stuff these days, I think. Yeah, they have. It's like a piece of history. It's like a museum in there almost. Sometimes you find so much like wonky, cool stuff, and there's like in the cases there's like old pewter miniatures, maybe even lead like old school minis that just they had. I don't know, someone donated them, or I don't know. There's like a lot of really cool stuff. So yeah, that's a fun place to go. I've been there a few times. But 20 sided is great too. It's right by like Emily Pizza too, which is famous. Um, that whole area is cool. I'm in there. Well, I guess I wouldn't say super often, but like I got friends that kind of bartend and stuff in that area. So yeah, it's a cool part of town. So we painted. Again, I don't know if you saw this on the last stream start, but this is Reaper, I think. We're just doing this beetle, so we're doing a little dry brushing, a little glazing and stuff. Mostly layering up from dark. No speed paints really or anything, but we didn't do a set scheme. This is just what I did. People used whatever colors they want, but yeah, it was fun little mini. It's fun to start on something organic because you can't really mess it up, and then people could do different. Like some people did shimmery metallic schemes, like on the carapace and everything. So that was cool. Um, but yeah, I appreciate folks' patience. It's been very busy in the paint department. I was saying I finished up the last legs of some paint requirements to keep the Starforged ball rolling, so that's very exciting. And I've been painting some cool stuff for Dungeons Reforged and some bulk to make some builds and everything. So, but Thursdays, it's the end of the week, so sometimes I'm kind of like on a crunch and I gotta get it finished for the week. So I've had to cancel some of the streams, but I'm happy to be back. New dungeon scheme is looking really amazing. I appreciate it. It's very, very exciting when we can sort of do something brand new that's a little out there, like, the Underdoom style, or even like a Hellscape, right? Because when we first venture into something, the magic bullseye, right, is kind of like not generic. You want it to be interesting, but you want it to be like widely usable in whatever stories you're telling, you know. So it's a little more realistic, a little more grounded, you know. And it's a great scheme. Original Dungeons is a great scheme. But just like Underdoom and the original Caverns, it's like, okay, if we're going back doing something new, might as well go a little wild, right? So that was a fun experiment. And the way that I've, you know, if you break down the schemes, you're watching the Dwarven Forge painting videos and everything, right? Like the core of a lot of schemes is 2 colors, right? It's like a base and a dry brush. Maybe 2 dry brushes, or like Dungeons is like the accent colors and then a dry brush. So that's a couple different ways that we've used like this 2-step method. So it kind of comes down to just fun experimentation of like, what can you do in 2 steps? What effects can you achieve? And with Starforged, it was kind of like that faux weathering thing and that temperature contrast with like the red-brown first step followed by the actual main color second step to get this weathering effect. And then with the dungeon scheme, it was just kind of a atmospheric, mossy, wet effect. I consider it a couple things. It can kind of read as like ambient necro glow or like magical dewy mossiness or something. But anyway, it's like a new effect just with the 2 steps. And it's more than 2 steps because you have a couple extra colors, right? But like the main identity is those things. Like the wood in Lowtown or something, you know? Just 2 dry brushes. So it's been fun to experiment with like this 2-step thing of like, what's the maximum we can do with like the minimum like paint application. So that's been a lot of fun. So it's cool when we have an opportunity to really think outside the box when doing that. And speaking of original dungeons, I am basing up multiple models here because I want to try to paint like multiple things and see if we can do some batch painting here too. Because I really like, especially these are raiders, you know, your general kind of ragamuffin raiders, patched together gear, everything, right? The motley crew. And what the dungeon scheme does well is like it paints all of the accent colors, even the pillars and everything, and then it's just an overall dry brush, like a universal dry brush over everything, and it makes it really have that like old, dusty, weathered look. And I've done that before on like troops and stuff, like models, characters, and I think it's a really cool effect if you can just do a universal dry brush over everything. One, it's really fast. 2, you can use a lot of wonky colors because they'll get kind of knocked down by a dusty dry brush, and that will unify the models together even though they might have different colors. So when this primer freaking dries, we can do some of that. But basically, like, I don't know, it's especially for something that can get away with looking rugged like this, it's a really fun way to paint, because basically all you have to do is like base coat it and then just do a gentle dry brush of the same highlight. Again, it's kind of a 2-step process again. Base everything, obviously the colors depending, use as many or as few as you want, but just do a base coat and do a dry brush, call it done. While this is dry brushing, I guess I can show you some of this that has happened, I've done. If I can get it up, I'll just go to my Instagram. No notifications, thank you. Okay. Is this my web browser? No, it's not. Doesn't want to work. My software is, here we go. Failing me, I was gonna say, but now it's okay. I haven't done this technique in a while. Oh, here. These two are right next to each other. See, I was really in the mood here on these. So if you look at this thing, there's quite a few colors going on. Can I get my cursor to show? It says capture cursor. Well, here we go. There's a lot of colors. You know, there's like this red. There's some greenishness and some blue. So this was done with speed paint. So you could also do a speed paint base coat, right? Which is very, you know, fast way to do it. This is all about kind of getting an effect that's quick, but impactful. So yeah, this is just like a zenithal highlight, right? Black and white. And then kind of going wild with the speed paints. Red, blue, green. Like before, I wish I had a picture of this before. But they were very saturated. Like pretty colorful. Not crazy, right? Like you can kind of see the original colors here. But it would kind of look like, you know, kind of a patchy mess on its own, which this guy kind of is a patched together robot. But then this dry brush really unifies it, and I got away with some scratches just by following the dry brush. Like, oh, this got a little scratchy, I'll kind of lean into that on an area. So yeah, this is one example, and then this here on some troops. Same thing. You can really see more of the color, the colorfulness, the saturated nature of some of these colors. You can even see speed paints in the background. But yeah, just hit it with this dry brush. Even metals, I think, is cool if you were to do a metallic, or even I think these weapons were just black a lot of times. Even hitting them with that makes them kind of feel worn. So anyway, this is kind of what I was thinking of doing with these that we have here today. Also, I'm using a new product. This base texture is just Liquitex, like, grit medium for paint. I had like the Vallejo kind of sandy texture paste, and I don't really need the color like that it is. Like if you were to just put it directly on a base and leave it, I prefer to paint it. And so this thing was a giant bottle. It was around the same price, maybe a couple dollars cheaper than the Vallejo, but a bigger bottle. So I'm trying this stuff out. We'll see how it sort of turns out in the end. And what I like about, you know, characters that kind of have this thrown together gear is you can use pretty much any and all colors, especially when you're gonna unify it with that dusty dry brush. probably more commonly use speed paints for this, as in like starting from light, not as much starting from dark like this is, but so we might do a little more like traditional layering as we go, but we'll see where it ends up, or I might have to like wash it or something. Oh, a new idea just occurred to me too, of like what I lose with doing it this way is like if I'm just doing an opaque base coat, I miss some of the shadows. But if we just do this two-step base and then the dry brush, then I could go in with some quick glazes in the recesses and get those nice mids like in the saturation. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. Welcome in. So I just have like a bunch of colors picked out here. I'm not even like thinking too much about which ones I'm picking. What's nice is, you know, the primer isn't fully opaque on the Metal Mini, so I gotta get some black out, but if you use a black primer, some of it you can just leave, because it'll get highlighted with the dry brush, and then you can even maybe glaze it down back to dark, but I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of Slap Chop, I just probably don't use it quite as much. I mean, sometimes I start there, I guess. Like, my Orc Army for Warhammer starts there, but I rarely stop there. I always think, like, you know, I'm happy for whatever gets, you know, people's minis on the table, right? But I always kind of end up wanting to do, like, one or two little extra things. And here in this case, honestly, I just barely got these primed dark before we started. So I'm not going to do that here today. A lot of times on the stream we kind of end up just layering anyway. This is one of the first times I've done even like a batch painting attempt. I won't even call it batch painting because they're all going to be slightly different. I wouldn't say it's my go-to personally. But a lot of people find great results. I mean, painting is always about, like, it's one thing to learn how to paint minis, but then eventually you learn how you paint minis. What processes kind of connect with you the most, how you like to paint. think I'm gonna have some learnings here on my tried and true method going from darker base coats though, because I'm definitely gonna want a little extra in the recesses. I don't have a wash with me, I have an ink. I don't love that I can thin it down, but it's gonna be glossy. We might have to live with that anyway, but Charles, I am not going to Gen Con. I've actually never been. And since we started going to Adepticon here, that's probably going to be like my guaranteed one since I'm the Wargame guy. So I probably won't be on the group going to Gen Con. And honestly, I have a fishing trip that week. So, back in Minnesota. Another trick I like to do is when you have like bundles of stuff, just like pouches and packs, right? I don't really pick out every little thing, honestly. I just sort of get the blob of stuff a similar color. It's not as useful with this metallic, but if you just have like a brown or a gray or something neutral, just hit the group O objects, group O stuff, bundle of things. I'm not sure I'm going to PAX U either. Adepticon right now is the only one that I'm like for sure on the roster for, but depends if we don't have enough people that are available or that want to go, then maybe I'll get on the list. But, you know, there's lots of people that want to go to conventions, and I always have that one, so I'm kind of flips table. I'm sorry. But yeah, you know, people, we want everyone to have a chance to go, so. I will say regarding Grazai and stuff, the slap chop, I always have a lot of fun doing non-black and white primes and Xenophils, right? I think you can get a little more leverage out of that initial step sometimes. Like my Orky guys are... It's almost like a flesh tone Xenophil, like... I don't know, it adds a little warmth. Any orangey colors, kind of tough for opacity, especially I'm doing it straight over black. It's not the best idea, but that should be enough once we get the other steps going, I think. There is... I forget what it's called. I was saying you know, when I bought these I was playing Escape from Tarkov, and there is a tabletop war game that's basically Tarkov as like a skirmish campaign. I think it's by Osprey Games. You know, they have a ton of those little books, not just Frostgrave and that. All kinds of little rule sets. And it basically is doing the extraction scenario, loot progression. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I picked these up, got the PDF of the book, was like, this is rad, it's exactly what I'm playing, except on the tabletop. And then I never played it, and that was like 4 years ago, and now I'm just painting the minis. So it goes. Too many games to play. Too many minis to paint. I like how this sculpt has like one glove that has like a long cuff and another that doesn't, so I'm gonna paint them different colors. I'm gonna paint them the same color just because this one I was going for like a yellowish color, which that's gonna be tough over black prime. I'm excited to do something fun with these visors, some kind of glowy, like, I don't know, maybe it's like more of a sensor type HUD. Yeah, I'm really not thinking too hard about these colors because I do think I'm gonna maybe try to wash it. Maybe. Yeah. And then we'll do that overall dry brush. So a lot of it's gonna vanish, but it will just having the variety overall is more like the effect that I want. Like just the fact that it looks patchy and separated is almost more important than what the specific colors are. Just got some sepia ink here. Try to thin it down a little. Thought I had a matte medium here, which would be nice, but I guess, you know what, if it makes the shadows slightly satin, that might be good, because our dry brush will be matte. So there'll be a little contrast that way. There we go. Pretty good. Give it even more kind of grittiness, especially on these metallics that I've added. This is another reason too that makes it fun, is you don't have to be 100% neat, because you can add a step like this that sort of hides your sins a little bit. Can always soak off with the brush tip a couple of areas if it's pooling in like a wonky area. Looks pretty good though. It's fairly dark, but again, we're going for that really quick pop with the dusty dry brush. The color I most commonly use is Vallejo Beige. It's like, if you've used Ice Yellow, that's fairly popular, it's like not a notch under that. It's like pretty bright. It's under Ivory, it's under Ice Yellow even. It's like right in that upper mid area. Hey, is it? But this will take a little bit to dry, so we'll keep going on some of these colors. These warm colors will behave with the dry brush and the wash nicely, since they're also warm. I know I was saying some of these colors aren't great over the black base, but when we're doing this approach, I feel like I can get away with like not having 100% opacity, because you're just going to slop it up with a couple other extra steps that will hide most of that anyway, I think. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. These are just some Raiders. I really was trying to find the company. It's a really small company. And I'm not sure which one, unfortunately. I was trying to find like the email with my order. So I'm not sure. Maybe if I can double check again, I can put it in the Discord maybe. But I bought these when I was playing Escape from Tarkov a lot. The video game, sort of a extraction shooter. And I found a little rule set for a tabletop version of it, basically. It ended up being, so got some of these guys as raiders. Just now painting them up 4 years later, so here we are. Hoping we can use them. We're playing 5 parsecs from home. We have Stargrave that we haven't really played. So these would be good things for that. They could be enemies, they could be hired mercenaries for your squad or something. Like, and then the bases, I know they're kind of gravelly, but we'll do them in a similar color to Starforged, just so if we put it on the terrain, you know, looks somewhat cohesive. That'll be nice too, because our minis will end up a little warm, and then the base will have that cool blue-gray, so they'll contrast nicely. Droplet of doom on my brush waiting to fall onto my work. Not today, droplet. Alrighty. I have a lot of soft brushes. I don't have any of my makeup brushes here, that's a shame. Although when this is new, it's pretty soft. What do we got? What's tricky about this is, again, that ink is real satin, so it doesn't want to grab the stride brush. It wants to just smear it. We're gonna keep going. We can make it work. So now this best way to go from here is probably just to turn this into like a grisaille and then glaze the color back in, I think is what we'll do. But it's no work wasted. We got an idea of what we wanted to do. We placed some colors down so we can think about it even less. And just call it there. I will be doing this with like regular acrylic, so it'll end up fairly even more like desaturated. They'll be, you know, just thinning them down with water. So I'm not sure how colorful they'll be exactly, but For those of us who haven't been to PAX EU, is it basically like the other PAXs, but with only the tabletop portion? Or is there more table stuff added as well? I'm not sure. I've never been there myself. I feel like it was pretty big though, so I'm sure it doesn't seem like it was something where like they would just do a portion of what they do at the bigger events. I don't love it, but amongst a group of Dusty Raiders, it would be just fine. Not exactly what I was expecting. I think in retrospect, I do like when I've had more saturated base coats. And this just didn't take the dry brush as well as I hoped. Like some of these clothing edges and stuff are a little too rounded. But it'll still be a cool mini. Right now I'm using a Siliquitex gouache, acrylic gouache. They're just easier for me to find, and their price like per ounce is higher, and the quality's good. Basically, the gouache is like trying to emulate watercolor gouache, but that basically makes them feel like they're formulated like hobby paints are to me. So yeah, there's also just a great starter set, and these little bottles, like these are like a sample bottle for like a giant art size, but these are just perfect for us. So stuff I've been doing with them, that's pretty much all I have at home here is those paints. So this is normally what we're doing, is just layering up. I think I really want speed paints for this technique I'm doing. With these, I prefer to do something more like this. I like that guy. That's a cool sculpt. Simple but full of character. Well, maybe we can try to get this effect with the layering. I have to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Pretty good home painting setup. Yeah, I mean, we're just talking like a less than 2 feet of desk here. This is it. At home. It's the whole deal. Just the L desk. Yeah, most of my stuff is at Dwarven Forge. Used to have it all at home, but don't have a lot of space here. And it gets cluttered easily, it's messy, so, you know, it's a tiny New York apartment, so not a lot of room for extra stuff. Yeah. These guys aren't working exactly as I planned with what I have here. I might bring home a kit of stuff from the office. I gotta tell you, this thing right here is awesome. It's like bucket of rounds. There's like, there are a few different sizes. They're pretty close, but they're all like useful sizes. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get those like variety packs. They're cheap brushes, but like you don't use all the shapes. But I found that thing on Amazon. It's like 28 bucks. There's what, almost 150 brushes in that thing. What's it called? Royal Langnickel brand golden Taclon rounds, 144 count. Yeah, not too shabby, and a nice container to hold it on your desk too. I just ordered a couple of those for the studio. Got some flesh eater quartz here too, sitting here. I am very excited for the new edition of Age of Sigmar. They've been hyping that up pretty well too, with all the faction focuses and stuff. Alright, y'all, I'm about to wrap up, I think, here. Let's see. I suppose next Thursday is 4th of July, so I will not be streaming. On Wednesday the 3rd, On the End was on the calendar, so I think it's happening. But as always, keep a heads up in the Discord. If that changes, Chris will put an announcement up in there. And for now, have a great evening.